If I could have your attention, I'd like to welcome you to our May 11th, 2023 City Council meeting. In the interest of time efficiency and ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present here in council chambers. Each speaker shall be allotted 3 minutes to address the council unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers. Thank you for participating in your city government. Please silence all electronic devices. With that, I'll call this meeting to order. Could we please stand together for our invocation? I'd like to welcome Pastor Rogers to our council tonight. And if you lead us in prayer, remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity, and council members. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the occasion. We thank you for our city government. We thank you for our city. And Lord, you've placed us here in your will, in your time. And so as we meet together tonight, I would ask, first of all, you would bless each one that's here and bless the members of the council. We pray as well for wisdom, the wisdom that only you can give. And I would pray, Father, that you help us all to realize that we need to be polite and fair with each other. We ask now these things in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Rogers. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Blackwell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Here.
Councilmember Matheny?
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Here.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Here.
The first item are any updates to our agenda. Do you have any?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will have a presentation by the Economic Development Division regarding the Quarterly Economic Development Report, and we'll recognize Ms. Forbes.
Good evening, Antoinette Forbes, Economic Development Director. What I'd like to do, because this time last year I gave you a year in review of where we've come thus far. If you have not seen, Wallet Hub has ranked the city of St. Cloud as number 54 as one of the best places in the United States to do business. I think this year in review will show you how we've gotten to that point. Also, what I'd like to do is give you a comparison. So you'll forward and tell you how the state is doing versus how we are doing. So you'll see that comparison. So we'll start with our workforce. In our workforce, you'll see that our largest sector remains the retail trade area, employing approximately 2,500 workers, but then after that becomes healthcare, which is a good thing because that's one of our target industries. So the more that we intend to grow with healthcare, some of those ancillary services come with it, and it's easier for us to create business recruitment opportunities. I'm going to go through some of these slides fast, but please stop me if you have any questions. We a strong segment in the accommodations and food service as well as in our professional services. So this stays in line with year to year. Also on our workforce data, we want to show you that all counties decreased in unemployment last year, which is a good thing because it shows that we were coming out of COVID. The state overall gained 440 jobs, which was an increase of almost 5%. In comparison, the state of Florida lost $1.2 million jobs between the months of height of COVID. However, it has since gained back all lost jobs and created more than 1.7 million. In our MSA area, specifically the Orlando-Kissimmee area, we had an increase of 53,300 jobs, which is 4% over the past year. Also, one of the things that we tend to, or we should be priding ourselves on, is our high education attainment. So a lot of times when businesses come in, they have an educated labor force readily available. So our high school diploma graduation rate is at 91%. As you see, it is higher than Kissimmee, which is at 84%. It is higher than the county, which is at 87%, and it is higher than the state of Florida at 80%. Drilling down a bit, what does that mean in terms of jobs? Because it's always about jobs, and in order to create jobs, you have to create businesses. So our business tax receipts went up last year, almost 300. So you'll notice the biggest jump would have been between 20 and 21, because again, that was COVID. However, what's very good to note is that the number of business tax receipts did not go down. So the people that decided to stay at home and create home-based jobs or create additional jobs stayed and they gained. So that's a 45% growth in the past 4 years. Certified business registrations are basically businesses that are registered to do business with the state of Florida. This is only referencing the state of Florida and not with, for example, the city of Orlando or the school board, who have their own certification process. So we did go, we have 48 certified businesses, but the DBEs, which is disadvantaged business entities, are for-year businesses that are minority, veteran-owned, women-owned. We did go down by 2, so now we're at 22. It is our office's position to continue to create programming in order to encourage more DBEs. For our home-based businesses, we continue to go up slightly. We are now at 852 home-based businesses, but that's still a 36% increase over the past 3 years. You'll see also that our commercial construction also continues to increase. Our CRA taxable value has increased by 19% over the past 4 years. This is where I'm going to start going kind of fast here, but stop me if you like. We also offer technical assistance because money at some point runs out. We don't always have grants available, but we do have technical assistance through our resource providers. So we provided several programs, some virtual, some in person. For example, we provided the advantage of certifying your business and an intro to the Veterans Entrepreneur Initiative program. We also provided a webinar on access to capital, and then in-house our staff did a webinar on how to start a business specifically with the City of St. Cloud. That was hosted by our business navigator. We also in December offered a webinar in conjunction with the SBA on emergency economic disaster loans, and that was specifically tied to the downtown construction because that was considered an eligible activity. Also along the lines of technical assistance, we started our Site Selector series, which was specifically to recruit commercial developers and real estate professionals who are interested in relocating. And so we did a webinar on our population projections and how that equals more commercial development is needed. We also partnered with the St. Cloud Chamber to start a video series, which is based on our How to Start a Business handbook that was prepared in-house. And then lastly, we did a seminar on our workforce numbers, which is what I first started talking about in the first slide. In terms of events, we, like I said, partnered with the Veterans Entrepreneurship Initiative, where we recruited our veterans who are interested in going back into the workforce and starting their own business. We also did our culinary bicycle tour, which we have 2 planned this year. The one coming up is January the 3rd. And our economic summit, which was an all-day pass into the City of St. Cloud. It was done virtual because, again, COVID, but it gave information about our workforce, our upcoming businesses, what it's like to do business, what incentives that we offer, all with the idea of getting more businesses into the city. Also, we took field trips. We went to some of our neighboring cities to figure out what they do well and what we can emulate. They say that imitation is the highest form of flattery, so I don't mind flattering. We went to the city of Sanford to look at their seaplane base. We also went to the city of Tavares as well. We also had a new commercial done that featured the new CEO of Orlando Health, Brian Wetzel, where he welcomed everyone to the City of St. Cloud. You'll see that on our upcoming website. And of course, our partnership, the city PD partnership with the CRA for innovative policing services. This is just a snapshot of our upcoming website because I've been promising it for a very long time. So our communications office is very diligently helping us upload the content. So we hope to have that done by the end of this month. But the snapshot, you'll see that it is very user-friendly and hopefully a lot cleaner. Also, in terms of financial assistance, when we did have funding available, we tried to institute programs that would provide a direct cash infusion, particularly to our downtown businesses. So we had the economic gardening program for the entertainment district, where we had utility assistance that was provided directly to the utility companies, both Toho and OUC, and they provided via credits to the downtown businesses. We also did a shuttle service for about 2.5, 3 months or so that looped from the downtown to the lakefront. We partnered with the Main Street program to provide the Cloud Cash for $100,000, and our Growth Wheel program is still going on to the end of the fiscal year, September 30th, which is specifically for downtown businesses to give one-on-one technical assistance and training on how to pivot and help your business gain more net income. These are what I call our big check photos. So these are some of the businesses that received some assistance from the downtown. We had allocated $30,000 for downtown marketing grants. We gave out $29,000 of that. So these are some of the award recipients. And then lastly, here are some things we are working on or are currently are coming up. So we have 2 new staff members I'm very excited about. We have a CDBG program manager that can now help us execute some of the programming that we put in place, the action plans that I've been bringing before you for council actions. Now the programs will now start to go underway, and a new CRA specialist. And then I mentioned about our ranking. Also, we are updating the content for our ED site. We will do another virtual summit. We are partnering with the Parks Department to activate and engage in Centennial Park. We will also like to have more familiarization tours with developers. Ola at the Park will now be Ola St. Cloud in our downtown, scheduled for November 16th. I talked about the CDBG program implementation. Of course, our seaplane base will now go into its design phase. So that is pretty much the sum of it, I believe. Yes. So we've been busy. Do you have any questions?
Well, we certainly appreciate all the hard work that you and the staff have been doing to advance the economic development of our city. Thank you so much. It's very evident you've been very effective. Does anyone on the council have any comments or questions to ask? Mr. Councilman Gilbert.
Yes, yes, thanks for all you do. Now, your trip to Sanford, that was to check the plane base, is that?
No. So our trip to Tavares was to see their
I'm sorry, that's
seaplane
right.
base. Our
Okay.
trip to Sanford was to look at their downtown and how they incorporated some of the historic district elements into their downtown.
What was your take? What'd you get out of those?
I think we can do more,
Okay,
and we will.
okay, well, that's really good to go to those cities, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And we thank you very much. Excellent report. Thank you once again for all your work. The next item on our agenda is our Citizens Forum. Any person who desires to comment on any item not on this agenda is provided this opportunity to address the City Council. Each person, once again, is requested to complete a signing form to be presented or provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as that's practical thereafter the person addresses the council. When you come forward, we ask that you please state your name and address for the record, and we will ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. Camille Levy. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Good evening. Camille Levy, 515 Neptune Bay Circle, St. Cloud. Mr. Mayor, City Council, City staff, I believe that you have before you our brand new brochure from the St. Cloud Women's Club Heritage Museum, which also includes some of our upcoming events and presentations. During the months of May and June, we have a special curated exhibit on the Police Department of St. Cloud. Now, back in 1923, speeding was such a problem that the county decided to help the police department by hiring a speed officer to patrol the streets of St. Cloud and Kissimmee. I mean, people were going an outrageous 20 miles an hour. The gentleman was provided with a motorcycle and a sidecar. The cost to the county was $400. Who was this courageous gentleman? Y'all are just going to have to come to the museum and look at the exhibit to find out. The volunteers of the Women's Club of St. Cloud who provide the services of the museum are deeply grateful to the City of St. Cloud for your support and also the support that we get from city staff. It helps us to preserve the past for the future. Thank you. Questions?
Any questions? Thank you once again for all that you do and for all of the work that has gone into the museum there. It's a huge, huge change and a very good one. Kelly Comey, is that correct?
Good afternoon, evening, hi everybody. So my name is Kelly Comey. I live at 3609 Bay Court, and I think this is my 4th time here, possibly more, to discuss the crosswalk at Peghorn and Bettinger, Peghorn and Buttinger Avenue over at the park. I've been asking for a lit-up crosswalk where they could push the button and get lights across the street. I believe that was approved over a year ago. Kevin Felbinger is now the guy in charge of it, but the person who was here before him, whose name I don't remember, I know you were here. I recognize a couple of you when that was approved. So it's been well over a year now. They've had studies done on that road. As we've discussed previously, there's multiple parks back there, children playing, Little League fields, skateboard parks, BMX track. It's meant for like walking, activity, outdoor activity. The baseline rate of that crosswalk for cars stopping for pedestrian is 0.19%. So it's like 19% of drivers stopping for pedestrians and children, who we're not going to mention because they get embarrassed crossing the crosswalk. Also, so that was the baseline, and that was done in November of 2022. That was the first year. The average, right now, the average driver yield rate is 24%. Now, I just want to keep in mind that these studies were done between the hours of 8 and 9 a.m., where most of the time the cars are at a dead stop. The only thing they're going to is a stop sign, and they're not stopping for pedestrians. That was when these studies are done. That road after hours is used for drag racing. If you go down there any other time, you'll see donuts, skid marks around the road. There's a school. The only thing on that road is a school, an elementary school, and multiple playgrounds and activity areas for pedestrians. BMX, skateboard, playground, Little League fields. On Peghorn, the nature trail, where you actually are meant to be walking, that's the corner. So we're at a current yield rate of 24%. In February 1st, they were there for 1 hour. When these studies are done, there's a police officer visible, maybe two. There's multiple people. They're holding signs, please stop for pedestrians. And then there's like a fake person who walks across the street. I don't know if you guys know how they work. On February 1st, one of these was done. They had 4 warnings, 5 citations, and that's in a 1 hour time period. May 2nd, another one was done, 7 warnings, 2 citations, and 1 for other. I don't know what that was. Same 1 hour crosswalk. Again, traffic is essentially stopped during these time frames. These people are holding signs, wearing clothing, and there's a police officer present. And we're still at a 24% yield rate to pedestrians.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Miller, do you have anything to add?
I was in the middle of looking at our project update. The last update that I verbally had from Mr. Felbinger was that we were simply waiting on the light itself, and that there was a long lead time on that. And I think he did let me know that he had told you about that long lead time, and I think he said that you were unhappy with that, but he had told me there wasn't a way to speed it up. But I will be happy to follow up with him again, and I'd be happy to work with the police chief and ask them to please monitor that area after hours.
Yeah, we do have Officer Lawson, I think, stops by sometimes. I just know him by name because he used to be our school's SRO. And he's constantly pulling people over. I ride a little electric scooter to school, so it really makes me very angry because it happens all the time. We have, as you know, the school has lit up police officer lights. And I watched a lady be pulled over next to me, like she was passing the police officer and getting pulled over in front. And again, it's out of control on that
All right.
street.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vincent Quadrato.
Hi, my name is Vincent Corrado, and I'm here to,
Please state your address, please.
my address is 6100 Lake Lizzie Drive. But the person that I'm here for, one of them, is that she's an elderly person. She's 81 years old. She lives in St. Cloud on Columbia Avenue. And she got fined, that says on her receipt I had, that she'd be getting fined $20 because of some cardboard box she didn't break up and put in a trash can. I mean, they're doing this to elderly people and disabled people. It's really not fair. And they need to do something about that. And then there's other issues of, I used to get from the IRS and Social Security Administration, I used to get services here that, before the pandemic. And now, at this time, there's no services for disabled people, or elderly people to attend these things that we have problems with, a disability or anything else that we need to get done, and fill out these forms with the IRS. And I couldn't even get my money for probably when the storm came in and other things. Actually, not with the storm, the pandemic, I'm sorry. The pandemic happened, and ever since 2020, everything's been really up in the air for the whole world, I know, but it's been really tough for me because of my disability. And I had to call several people in Washington and because of my disability, and even had a hard time with Tallahassee. And I had to call Washington against them. So it's just one thing after another. And Washington called them and told them that they needed to help me and fill out forms or whatever I needed to do. And they did, because now they found out what the Disabilities Act's all about. And I'm just trying to get things in order so I can at least say what I need to say, and to the, especially all the legislations and everybody in Tallahassee and in Washington, to make sure we have our rights and make sure everybody does the proper thing. And the houses that are going up near me, near Pine Grove and Lake Lizzie, I don't know if it's becoming city limits or what's going on, and they're turning everything to city limits. I don't know what's going on in that, but the roads need really repair, and they're bringing all these people here with the government, and all of these Disney and all the Universal need to come up with all this money. The government wants the people here, but they need to fix these roads. They need to give the police department. They need fire departments. They need schools. They need to do all of this before they bring the people here. And this needs to be addressed very carefully.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your concerns. Would anyone else like to speak during the Citizens Forum? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Richard Estel, and I own 1018 Pennsylvania Avenue. I would like to go back to, first of all, I want to thank Lynette and her team for all of the fantastic things they've done. The one thing that I wanted to bring to the council's attention was the OUC credits. I guess OUC was the one that determined where it went. So there were several businesses that were current through their own, whether we put it on a credit card or whether we put it on our personal finances, that weren't behind on our utilities, that did not receive anything from that grant. It wasn't just mine. There were a couple other business owners that I spoke with. And this is not a disparagement. I want you to be aware of how OUC handled it. So, and that's all I really have. But thank you for your time.
Could you please fill out a form so we have a record there, Richard?
If I can,
Yes, if you would, please.
Mayor. So, Mr. Still is correct. He did bring it to our attention, and we did discuss that with OUC. At this point, there's no way to fix it unless they removed funding from people who had received it. And unless the city council wanted to put more money back into that project to try to address the people who did not receive it that should have received it. However, I did ask OUC for an accounting, and they were not able to provide me with the detail of who should have gotten and how much. So it was not done to the manner that Miss Antoinette, when she sent it to them and asked it to be evenly distributed, that's not what happened.
Okay. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in the Citizens Forum? If not, we'll move on. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. The next portion of tonight's meeting, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial, will be addressed at this time. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, now will be the opportunity for you to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of the City Council wish to speak on a consent item, they will have the same opportunity. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to any item on the consent agenda? If not, we'll have discussion or motion by council. Could I have a motion for the adoption of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second. From Mr. Urban. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
The next item on our agenda are public hearings, and there are no public hearing items at this time. So we will move on to council action. And the first item is the discussion and possible action regarding bollards in the downtown.
Good evening, David Bridle, Strategic Initiatives Project Manager for the City Manager's Office. Tonight, I'd just like to give a brief background and history of what currently is going on with the downtown bollards. These bollards were purchased and were to be installed during the Downtown Phase 2 project. As these bollards were coming from overseas, it led to timing and supply issues, which meant that the bollards did not come until most of the project had been completed. So if we did move forward with the installation of the bollards, it would require additional funding, design, and construction along 10th Street and various intersections. If we did decide to move forward with the bollard installations, there are potential utility conflicts, which means that some of the bollard installation areas may not meet the manufacturer's required spacing specifications, and it could potentially create voids in the bollard protection system. Additionally, funds of anywhere between $1,430,000 to $1,830,000 would be required to design and complete installation of the bollards. Each newly completed paver intersection would also need to be closed for a minimum of 5 weeks, totaling at least 40 weeks of construction closures along 10th Street. This picture shows all 7 installation areas of the bollards, where green represents sewer, blue represents water, and orange represents stormwater. As you can see, at each of the 7 locations, there are possible utility conflicts, which means that it could potentially create a void in the bollard protection system. Staff has 3 recommendations. The most viable option would be to work to find a buyer for the bollards. The next viable staff recommendation would be to store the bollards for future use at another location, and we would receive as a city a credit of approximately $619,182 to our contract with Cathcart Construction. Number 3 would be to install the bollards at an additional cost of anywhere between $1,430,000 to $1,830,000, and would require an additional construction timeline of 40 weeks on 10th Street, which means if we did move forward with number 3, there would be one portion of 10th Street that would be closed completely for a minimum of 40 weeks. you would not be able to drive from one intersection to another for at least 40 weeks.
You done?
I'm done.
Councilmember Matheny?
Thank you. So some of my fellow council members will remember when the contract came before the city, I had problem with the number of bollards that were in the set of plans. It was like over $1 million worth of bollards, and I thought that was ridiculous and that we should have cut the bollards at that point. There was too many. That, I think maybe some were removed at that point, but it was, we went bollard crazy in my mind. But I guess I have one comment to make about the contractor. I think it's very frustrating that this is coming up here at the end. I mean, like, why this wasn't brought up sometime earlier in the project and had a discussion, you know, we're kind of like, it's over and now we're having this conversation. Secondly, the set of plans that they had showed the bollards, so why are there utility conflicts? They should have moved the utility conflicts. And so are we getting a credit for the utilities that weren't relocated in preparation for the bollards? Because they should have been moving those. It's very frustrating. We, you know, spent a lot of money on this project, and then to have this. So I talked with the city manager about it previously, and said, you know, is there a possibility to sell it back to wherever we got it? But I guess they came from overseas, and you can't really do that. I would be in favor of 1 or 2, not number 3. You know, but I also think we need to look at the credit very closely, because they should have done work in preparation for this, which clearly they haven't if utilities are in the way. And that's all I have to say about that. Thanks.
Councilmember Urban?
Yeah, I agree with everything Councilmember Matheny just said. I would just add, I definitely would be in favor of option 1 and 2. Hopefully we can find a buyer for these bollards, and there have been a lot of frustrations every step of the way with this process and the contractor, but I hope we can move forward. And I had a pretty good conversation with our city manager during my briefing. If we do move forward with option 1 and 2, I would like to see if we can use a portion of this credit to, since we did make a big investment in our downtown, to go forward with a pretty extensive marketing campaign to get people to come downtown and see all the great businesses and opportunity that we have here. So we had a discussion about what a marketing campaign would look like and what the costs would be, and I just wanted to see what the rest of the council thought about that, getting people to just showing off what our downtown and our businesses are all about.
You done? Councilman Gilbert?
Yeah, the manufacturer, I know, was in Israel, and there was shipping and containers and things such as that. Was there a due date that they were supposed to have a due to us?
We did have a due date, but that passed because of supply and chain issues. And so we were actually supposed to receive in the beginning, at the latest midpoint where all the roads were torn open, but we received it when everything was pretty much back in place.
So I guess what my question is what responsibility does the manufacturer have to deliver on time? Because if we had known this, we would have canceled the order before it hit the ocean.
Yeah, I think we had initially placed the order, and then when we were kind of hearing rumblings of how long it was going to take to actually get us, we asked to cancel it, and it wasn't an option. To cancel
Through the contractual agreement, it's no option if we're 2 months late or a year late, you still got to take these things?
I'm not sure of the contract inside and out, but we can take a look and see.
We'll look at that, but I agree with Councilman Urban, but there's also, I talked to the police chief, and there's temporary ballots that you can bring. They're portables at less expense, and then we could use them when those venues accord. They're called Meridian, and there's different manufacturers. But if we want to protect, maybe we go with the temporaries if we get that $600,000. I don't want to take the money away from marketing, but if we think we need some in various places, that might be an option. So we might want to look into that. But yeah, everything slowed down, but I just don't understand why the manufacturer doesn't have some responsibility of due dates and taking them back or not even shipping them. It's the only thing I have to comment on.
Okay.
Thank you for all you do.
We have originally spoken to the police chief a few months ago about if we didn't move forward with bollard options, about the temporary. So that's definitely an option.
Councilman Fletcher?
I'll echo the same comments that everybody else has said. I agree with Councilwoman Matheny on the relocations, and then also the marketing plan that Councilmember or Deputy Mayor Urban said. Regarding the marketing plan, if we do get the credit, I would like to see us work with the Downtown Business Group and folks in the downtown regarding whatever that marketing plan is. Bring them in, let them have some input on it as well, so that we can ensure that we're able to do something pretty substantial for them, considering the effects of the construction project on them.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I agree with the marketing plan. That's a great idea, Deputy Mayor. Regarding the Jersey barriers is what you're talking about when you bring them in and you set them up. They're the big concrete. We already do those. So when New York Avenue happened, we asked for bollards to go in because it just kind of looks ugly and it doesn't really, so they put bollards on the New York Avenue project, but there was problems with them. And so then when we moved to this phase, so that's why they were hydraulic is supposed to go in the ground and actually stop a car if they drive at them. But yeah, we already use the Jersey barriers for events. They bring them in and set them on
Yeah, these are a little
the
different.
streets.
These are a little different than the Jersey barriers. They're made out of metal, and they actually, when a vehicle will hit them, they'll stop a 2-ton truck because the bottom of the stop goes right into the engine compartment and stops the vehicle.
One person can do it with.
With one.
Oh,
hand.
it can do that
Yeah,
instead of
it's-
bringing like a big equipment in?
And here's my thought on that. If that goes there, we'll talk about further, but these are marketing opportunities because they look like signs.
And are they installed or
Use
do
the-
they move in and
I'll
move
show you
out?
the- I'll show
They're
you
on
the
a trailer.
video.
Oh,
You're on a
okay.
trailer, and one man can,
Set
one
'em up.
person, I'm sorry, can set them up, yes.
Okay.
So if like an emergency vehicle needed to get in, one person could just move it.
Oh, that'd be great.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Our city manager.
Thank you. I just wanted to address a few of the things that were said. Regarding the marketing plan, if we receive direction to. Okay, so we have funding to start a marketing plan, but I'll have to, in a future budget amendment, come back to move the money from the downtown project general fund to the marketing fund. And then also regarding the utility conflicts, I just wanted to let you know, first of all, it was my decision to keep moving forward. I didn't want to wait for the bollards, and they did ask me. I said, no, keep going. We're not gonna stand here and wait while the roads are open. However, during that time, there was talk about the utility conflicts, and we were waiting for quotes for the utility conflicts, and they didn't come until the end. And then it was that we would have to design on the go.
On the fly, yeah.
So I just wanted to let you know. I don't know how that. Maybe that is still Cathcart's responsibility, but I just wanted to let you know that was what I was told at the time.
Yeah, we worked, once we found out the timeline of when we actually got the bollard, staff sat down with Cathcart and Osceola Engineering, and they went back and forth for months trying to figure it out. And then at the very end is when we got the quote from Cathcart, how much it would be. We asked Osceola Engineering how you guys would be able to design. Basically was they would have to open the road and design on the fly, which could potentially delay the project even more.
I think part of the concern was also, as we saw on Pennsylvania, they kept finding new conflicts throughout the project. So I think that was part of why they wanted to do it on the fly, because they didn't know what they would find as they went deeper.
And these are just possible utility conflicts. Once we open it, if you did decide to move that way, we don't know that they'll be there, but potentially it could be.
Well, I certainly don't have a problem with supporting a marketing plan as long as that money can legitimately be used for that. My concern is that what's the plan? What is the plan? What's it going to cost? What are they going to do? And so we need to get some kind of report to come back. And because I certainly think anything that we could do to advance and get business better flowing downtown would be a winner for us, especially now all that work's been done. Councilmember Urban.
Yes, I'm sorry. If I may, City Manager, I don't know if Mary Emma is available. We had a pretty good conversation during our briefing about what a possible marketing plan could look like and maybe a budget for that. Could you speak to that at all for us?
Good evening, council members. Mary Emma Batchelder, Communications Director. As Deputy Mayor alluded to, we had a conversation about this. It was kind of an off the cuff, on the fly conversation, but we talked about everything from what you traditionally think of, radio, TV, print, digital, those types of things, to kind of newer things like getting influencers online to come and talk about how cool it is to be in downtown in the entertainment district and shopping, things like that. So it's something that's right now, it's conjecture and theories, but we have a consultant on board that is a task authorization that I could work with to, in conjunction with our downtown business group, of course, but just to kind of start hashing out and brainstorming kind of what that would look like, and then be able to come back with some proposed budgets. And, you know, depending on how big we want to go, I mean, the sun, moon, and stars are out there. So, but I think the number we kind of threw around the other day was around $100,000. I mean, you can do a lot with that. So, and if you don't want to spend that much, we could scale back and just kind of talk through the pros and cons and weigh that out. And whatever direction council wants to go is how we'll proceed.
Well, I think bring us back some proposals then. All right.
Do you have direction on 1 and 2?
I have direction on marketing. I don't know if I had direction on
On the
selling
bollards,
them.
that's the next
or-
thing. I support, if you can sell them, sell them. No, the amount of money, the additional money we're looking at having to install them and to do number 3, I don't think that's a wise investment for our city right now. To even think about having to pull up that much additional money, then you're talking about not even sure what you're going to be getting into. I think you're going to be looking at numbers bigger than those. But I would support proceeding with item 1, and if you can do that, fine. If you can't, then we'll be doing item number 2, whether we want to or not.
Can you
Do we have a
nod or
consensus?
give me a thumbs up? Okay, definitely. Thank you. We will proceed with 1 and then 2.
All right.
And we'll bring back a marketing plan.
Thank you. Mr. Mazaris, do you have anything for us?
No, sir.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to let you know that earlier this week, Ms. Forbes and I both attended the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of Metro Orlando 30th anniversary luncheon called Ignite at the Dr. Phillips Center. It was a great event. It was a great opportunity for us to do a little bit of networking, and maybe we can help foster some additional relationships to come here to St. Cloud. Additionally, we had recently talked about the food pantry and trying to find a new solution since the property where they're at is going to be demolished soon. And so staff worked with the Council on Aging, Mr. Tomek, Parks and Rec, Planning, Economic Development, Finance. We had a great team evaluate lots of options throughout the city. So we don't have one property or facility that's able to accommodate the functions that are currently existing here, but we do have a viable solution to split the functions. And what we would like to do is we're going to work with the food pantry to purchase a refrigerated truck. And the Civic Center on 17th Street, there is the loop that's in front. That used to be a bus stop. The bus has moved. It's not there anymore. So the food pantry will continue to prepare the food. They make people register in advance, so it's not like anybody can just show up. So they know who's coming. So they'll use the refrigerated truck. They'll park it so that people can come in their vehicle. They won't have to get out and pick up their food and go. And so that's currently the option that we're going to move forward with right now. The additional services, the office space that the services that they're offering there right now, we don't have an opportunity for that. So we'll still be looking for a longer-term permanent solution. But right now, this is going to work for everybody, and they're happy with this solution.
Thank you. Councilor Matheny?
Thank you. If you mentioned it, I missed it. Where are they storing all of their stuff?
So they're going to use their main property, the Council on Aging's main property, the
Oh, okay.
Barney Veal Center.
Okay.
So they're going to make the food packages there.
Okay, so that'll
And-
be where all their dry goods and all their all that stuff will be stored there,
And then
they'll.
we would be buying them assuming the city council approves it in the future, with CDBG funds, that refrigerated truck. But it's an eligible expense for CDBG. And it allows the Council on Aging to also potentially use it for Meals on Wheels also.
Very good.
And that's
Anything
all I
else?
have. Thank you.
Councilmember Matheny,
I don't have anything.
Councilmember Urban.
Thank you. I just want to thank staff for working so hard on that. I know that was a difficult issue, so thank you. That's definitely helps. The one thing I wanted to bring up is that I met with the jet ski company that we just currently went into a franchise agreement with. There were some issues that they showed me at the boat ramp at the lakefront. I sat down there for a little while and watched. It's a little bit concerning, some of the things that are going on there. I was just wondering if the council would have any interest in maybe discussing this as an item at our next workshop to kind of work through some of the details and the issues that they were having. Because it's something that is an ongoing issue, and it's I don't think it's something that we can ignore very long. So
I would certainly support looking at that again, and because what we have now is not working. Mrs. Miller.
Staff met today, Parks, Police, Legal, and I think the meeting was over an hour, trying to go over opportunities, and happy to do this at a workshop. However, staff had previously staff or legal had previously drafted an ordinance similar to Claremont's that required a permit, and we would like to move forward and put that on an agenda because it will take time for us to put something into effect. The summer's coming quickly, so we would like it to basically have a permitting system that city residents would basically have just the cost of whatever the permit would be, the sticker, a higher rate for county residents and a much higher rate for businesses that are operating there. And then the person who has the lease would have an easier time there. It would help us. In the meantime, also, we'll work on having additional police presence out there. Would use our council contingency money. The police department used quite a bit of their overtime budget during the hurricanes we had this year and the flooding, so we would use the council contingency to increase some of that overtime that they have in their budget so that we could increase the police presence at the dock. It's not a solution that could be done overnight, but we can do it at the workshop, but I would like to just have us start working on putting that ordinance, because it's a city code change, and we still have a little bit more research that we would need to do.
Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I don't really know what the current issues are. So I saw your email that came out, but I still don't really know what the current issues are, so I don't really, I can't really argue one way or another. I know that we were having issues with the boat ramps, and that's why we pushed to get the park ranger to be out there to help. I mean, so is that helping to have that presence out there? I mean, I don't really know what good a sticker on a window is going to do, because then you're going to still going to be dealing with an enforcement. But I don't. No one's briefed me on this issue, so I don't.
Yeah, there is a park ranger there for part of the day on Saturday. It's one person for the entire week, and he's not an officer. So part of this was going to give them the ability to cite people. Park ranger does not work on Sundays, and so that was part of where a permit process could potentially help us offset the costs to increase having someone there, whether it's another park ranger or police on the weekends.
But didn't you just say that the cost of the permit and the sticker will just be the cost of the sticker?
For the city residents, but we have a lot of county residents, and then the businesses. We have some businesses that are operating. So, as was explained to me today, and I think several council members have also been reached out to. There's several businesses that are operating there and that are using the floating docks to operate their business, and it's causing conflicts as they're trying to go out. I think someone referred to it as the Wild Wild West.
I mean, it seems to me like it's an enforcement issue, and why not just put more resources down there.
Well,
But-
that's part of where we talked to Mr. Gerke, but he needs something like a permit in order to enforce it because it's a public boat ramp. He's nodding, so I said that correctly. So I think when, I wasn't part of the conversations last year when you were moving forward with the decision to have a one person with a lease, but that didn't eliminate the problem of everybody else still being able to use the public boat ramp. And I'm going to look at our attorney to see if he has any more wisdom to add.
Well, the issue is there is not enough regulatory authority within the city code to address all the activity that's out there. So what the discussion we had today was to try to work to see how much regulatory restrictions we can put in for the actual use of the boat ramp itself, because that's where the main problem comes. The permitting thing that Mrs. Miller talked about would give whoever is, again, it is an enforcement issue. You're still going to have use resources, an ability to say, to address the fact that only permitted vessels, whatever they are, can be launched at the boat ramp. And so that would, in and of itself, would at least begin some regulatory or restriction on the number of people that are being able to use that. It would also give an opportunity to deal with folks that are maybe not following rules, to address that with regard to it, because you will now be able to identify the vessel that's being used, who the owner is, where they live, that kind of thing. You'll be able to do that. The second piece of it all was with regard to the businesses, and I think some of this is already is going to be done immediately. There is an area there where it is not designated for essentially mooring these vehicles, and that has happened. So they're putting up some signage to stop that. However, I'm careful how I say this. We need stronger code provisions to effectively enforce those mooring issues in the code, because it's not as strong as it needs to be right now. So that would also be part of what is. So we're really looking at a multifaceted approach to try to address it, to address the commercial businesses that are doing it, as well as the recreational folks who are doing it, and then also, which is what we talked about in 2021 when this issue first came up, to address the unique situation of where individuals can actually rent this watercraft online without any connection with any physical connection to the lakefront area, and it is very difficult for city staff or the police to enforce that when it's all being done online, and all you basically see is somebody getting on a wave runner or a jet ski with a life jacket on, and how it gets ran. So it's going to be the idea is to have an ordinance that has more teeth in it. And at the end of the day, we truly believe it'll actually provide some greater economic protection for the one franchisee that you have out there at the end of the day.
Councilmember Fletcher.
So with the permit, so would that require every boat that gets launched to have a permit?
That's what we're working through right now.
Okay. Because like Deputy Mayor Urban said, like if you're looking at the boat ramp, to the left of the boat ramp, like it is mad chaos down there. It's bad, because I spent some time down there as well with the franchisee, and it is really bad. And I agree that it's an enforcement issue for sure. Like I don't know what signage could be put down there to, all right, you can't, park here and hang out and just set up random tents on city property. Seems like code enforcement could take care of it.
Well, they can address that, but again, it's a resource issue. So you're going to have people there with the authority to be able to address those issues.
Councilmember Matheny.
So, I guess, is it not city property? I mean, I don't know why you can't enforce on city property. Like, if somebody was doing shenanigans in our parking lot, can't you go out? It's city property. You could go out and say,
Right.
You can't do that. I don't really understand why we don't have enough enforcement as it sits. It's city property. Now, if they're in the lake, we don't have any rights out there. It's my understanding.
Right.
But if they're mooring to city-owned property, why isn't that enough?
complicated.
Yeah, we talked about this the other day and with regard to the mooring piece, and we talked to Stephanie Holkamp, and the city manager authorized the placement of signs to prohibit them. It is a little bit more complicated than that, but we were looking to make sure we were taking it a step further, and of course, the enforcement folks asked me, and the police chief asked me, well, what do we do when somebody doesn't want to move their vessel? And they just say, no, I'm not moving. I'm not listening. I'm not obeying the sign. And that's when we have to make sure that we have the appropriate language within the code so that we can address that. And it's not completely in there yet. So we're working on that, but that's part of it.
I guess, what do you do when someone refuses to move their vehicle out of a roadway?
Because there's language in the code already for that. But this isn't a roadway. This is a dock area on a navigable water body that's controlled by the state.
Okay. I just don't want to overcomplicate it. I mean, it seems like that's overcomplicating things, but.
Work on it. Can we get you to work on it then and bring us, you said you're going to bring something back?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, one of the things that I learned today, part of why we've seen such an increase is, I guess, Orange County and some of our neighboring jurisdictions have restricted these on their lakes. So that's why these businesses are coming here.
Mm-hmm.
Plus the ability to use the internet and rent stuff online without anybody even knowing about it.
Councilman Urban, you have anything else?
That's all for me, thank you.
Councilman Gilbert?
Yes. So what you're looking at, something like what we do with the golf carts, right? To
Yes.
license and register them?
Yeah, we would, whatever address it was registered to, if that was in the city limits, that's what we would go. If it was registered to a business, then we would know it's commercial use.
I have a golf cart, and I found it very simple to register at the police department. It took me less than 5 minutes.
Well, and we talked about doing it, working with Stephanie so that she could do as much electronic as possible. You know, if they could upload a copy of their registration and you know, she's got RecTrack. We also have Track It. So again, we had the conversation at 4:30 today. We want to use technology to make it easier.
Great job on the food pantry. When we all passed out turkeys the same place, then it went pretty smoothly. I think all of us were out there, and we probably had a couple hundred turkeys, and that area was great. Come in, get your stuff going out.
I think that was the community center. So
Okay.
this is at the Civic Center, right next door. But it's
Okay.
a smaller loop.
Okay, okay. Now I know what you're talking about in the front there. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councilman Fletcher?
Yeah, really good job on the food pantry, and then just one more follow-up on the permitting. For the boats, I would definitely like to see more information regarding the permitting, because as of now, I don't necessarily think I'm in favor of getting a permit for your boat at the moment. So look forward to that.
And I'll take a look at whatever you bring. I'd love to have a solution. With that, we come to our information section, report section, Thursday, May the 18th. There'll be a city council workshop at 3 p.m. right here in Chambers. Thursday, May the 25th, there'll be a city council meeting at 6:30, also here in City Hall Council Chambers. Monday, May the 29th, city offices will be closed in observance of Memorial Day holiday. I've issued several proclamations, one in recognition of the Building Safety Month, proclamation in recognition of Economic Development Week, proclamation in recognition of Historic Preservation Month, proclamation in recognition of Lupus Awareness Month. For your review, reports are available. Warrant list number 10, Recreation Advisory Committee meeting minutes for February 23rd are available and have been approved. There are no other items on our agenda at this time. We will be adjourned from this council meeting. Do not take off very far, because we'll give you about 10 minutes to come back for an exciting ethics training from our illustrious city attorney.
Oh, city manager's doing it?
No.
City attorney.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, I saw her gulping when I said that.
So the American example wasn't good. So what if